Well, it's everything football, but today we're making an exception. We're talking some baseball. And Matthew, I'll tell you what. Last night, the judge was in session as he hit that home run that off the foul pole, and the Yankees win, and they live to see another day.
Yeah, I think it was good that he had his his power starting to show a little more.
Mm-hmm.
He's hit for average in the playoffs, but they've been a lot of singles for the most.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have the double up there in Toronto as well. But in that moment, in order to be able, like in that moment, hitting that home run means a lot for Aaron Judge in his career, simply
Mm-hmm.
because it starts to kind of dispel some of the labels that have been put on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more you want the guy to do, but there was a stat last night that I found fascinating. This season, there have been over 585 pitches at 100 miles an hour that have been outside the strike zone. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
either inside, outside, basically not a strike. That was the first one that was hit for a home run.
Yeah.
And he hit it off the almost on the off almost on his hands. That ball was way inside.
Yeah, it was way inside. I mean, I think a lot of the reason that you don't have guys, at least when it comes to the inside part,
Mm-hmm.
pull 100. Like you're not gonna get 100 inside and shoot it the other way for a homer. That's just not
No,
gonna happen.
no.
But also the way that your timing goes is that 98% of the time you're going to be so early on that it goes foul. I
Uh-huh.
mean, we saw with his home run, it almost went foul too.
Yeah, it did.
Like it's such a difficult thing to be able to keep 100 miles an hour in fair
Mm-hmm.
for a home run at least. Like when you add the distance aspect that's
Yeah.
required for the home run, it's just so hard to keep that ball fair.
I'm surprised it didn't break the bat.
Yeah.
I mean that was amazing. Then he makes the great catch in the outfield. Um, and the Blue Jays have a situation where they make a couple errors, and the Yankees make them pay for it because they were up 6-1, and then all things fell apart. I I really don't think um, that should be any panic in Toronto. I'm talking about in the Jays dugout. I mean,
Mm.
you blew a 5-run lead, understood, but today's another day, and we'll see how that young lad who pitched last week against your Red Sox comes out and pitches today against a Blue Jay team that usually feasts on young pitching.
Yeah, I do wonder about his performance. He doesn't have the as he said, he doesn't have as much shit talk from the Blue Jay
Hmm.
fans this week
Right.
that was really able to fuel his performance against the Red Sox,
Hmm.
which was just an insane narrative. But if it made him pitch well, then good on him for finding motivation.
Well, the other part being that a kid from Boston, he's facing a team that he grew up idolizing. That's not the case this time. He's
Mm.
not. He's pitching against a Blue Jay team, which he probably has no stake in. So this is just another game, another opportunity to pitch. But to me, I'm curious to see how that works. Now the Blue Jays, because they did, sit Scherzer and the gang. They're pitching a bullpen game today.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that would give me the most pause for concern
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a Blue Jays fan is the fact that you are going to a bullpen game today. It doesn't exactly set up well for you to win today.
No.
It felt like they should have won that game last night, and
Mm-hmm.
them not winning feels like it opened the door a lot wider than I think a lot of people maybe want to think about for the
Mm-hmm.
Yankees because like this is still one of the better teams in the AL that they opened the door against.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a solid pitching staff, and when their bullpen shows up, then they really become a pretty complete team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not their bullpen shows up is one thing or the other. But in a game where you're going bullpen and they're going their starter that went 8 innings scoreless last time he pitched
Right.
in the playoffs, it doesn't exactly give you any true hope. And I do have to wonder why John Schneider didn't go a little more all in yesterday, just because
Mm-hmm.
Shane Beaver gave up 3 runs before he gave up that home run to Judge. Because I look back, it looked like he was still the one pitching, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why would you not pull Beaver there? Like this, you're not managing it like a playoff game and leaving him in the ball game.
No.
After like 3 runs in the playoffs, you're getting the boot.
Yeah.
And he should have, but he didn't. He pulled the trigger too late, and they blew the game because that felt like a game that they could not afford to lose, at least momentum wise. Now, momentum's only as good as your next starting pitcher, but
Right.
in this case, the Yankees feel pretty good about the guy they have going tonight.
Well, Schiller, he pitched a great game against the Red Sox. No question about it. But, can he, put two of them together? And then the other side of the coin, as you just said, we have a deal here where the Toronto Blue Jays are going with a bullpen game. And so the obvious question on the other side is, they taxed that bullpen yesterday. So what exactly are you going to get? I think this might be a pretty high scoring baseball game if they just can't, if Cam can't get the ball across the plate or has any issues whatsoever. Now again, we've seen in World Series in the past, right, where there have been very unexpected heroes, and perhaps Schiller is the kind of guy that can pull out become the savior of the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, if he pitches even 2/3 of what he or 2/3, 3/4 of what he did last time he was out there,
Yeah.
then he has a very real chance of cementing himself not only like into this playoff run, but you're talking about a guy that's cementing himself into the rotation for into next year too. Because like people forget he's a
Mhm.
rookie,
Right.
so there's not necessarily a guarantee of your spot next year
No.
because he'd been good throughout the season, but the main reason he was up was their lack of depth and injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, next year, regardless of the injuries and depth, if he pitches the way that he pitched in Game 3 of the wild card, it's not going to matter who's on that roster,
No.
because he will be.
Louis Varland is going to be the opener for the Jays this afternoon. I should say this evening. That game, first pitch on FS1 is at 7:08 Eastern time. Okay, so for those of you out there now, there are games on FS1, and the American League games are on FS1. The National League games are on TBS. What I can tell you right now is if what happened yesterday with Detroit and Milwaukee. I'm sorry, Detroit and the Mariners having that rain delay put them over on FS2. So you got to be careful. If the one game goes a little bit longer, you're gonna have to pay attention that where it's going to be. It's going to be also on free for you on ESPN Radio, so you can listen to it or watch it.
I
Sorry?
saw it yesterday. It looked like it was on MLB Network as well.
Yeah, they flipped it over to just about every place they possibly could put it. The Brewers and the Cubbies get things underway at 5:08 on TBS. We have Quinn Pressner pitching for the Milwaukee and Jamison Callion for the Cubs.
Yeah, this pitching matchup I think again favors the Brewers. Not like that's really any surprise. I think you probably would have won the series, giving the Brewers the edge. You lined up starting rotation next to starting rotation. I think you give the Brewers the edge
Mm-hmm.
on all of their guys, but not to say like the Cubs can't win, because on any given night, these are these are, for as bad as the baseball teams are, you don't see anything outside of like
Hmm.
minus 210 money. Like that's how evenly split talent can be throughout the MLB. But if you ever are going to feel a talent disparity in Major League Baseball, it's in the playoffs,
Hmm.
and it feels like the Brewers have one over the Cubs right now.
Right. And it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, they are playing it Wrigley, and you know, we'll see if home field advantage has anything to do with this. Um, the earliest game, which is at 3:08, and that's on FS1, is the Mariners and Tigers, and that was Bryce Miller on the bump for the Mariners and Casey Mize on the hill for the Tigers.
Yeah, uh, I think it's a really good spot for Seattle to be able to close this series out.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're Seattle, you want to close it out here because in all likelihood you have Scooble going on on Thursday, I believe,
Right,
or Friday. They would play Friday, so
right.
you would have Scooble going Friday. I don't care that you're going back home.
Mm-hmm.
You end this series without having to play Tarek Scooble twice if you're Seattle.
The the funny thing about we were talking about you're talking about Friday because travel day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's you know, from this situation for the Mariners and the Tigers, it's different than the Cubs and the Brewers. Obviously, the Tigers are going to get on a plane and fly to Seattle if they have to. Um, with regard to the the I'm sorry, the Brewers and the Cubs, if there was a game 5 in Milwaukee, both the teams are going to be taking buses because it's only 90 miles between Chicago and Milwaukee. So not a long trip on that one. The nightcap is the Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies, and Aaron Nola gets the ball for the Phillies, and of course Yamamoto gets the ball for the Dodgers. I think this is going to be. I think this one's going to be over. The series going to be over tonight.
Yeah, that
CBS 9 o'clock. By the
yeah
way,
that's the feel. Like I am curious, and we're talking hypothetical here, but
sure.
say if the Phillies lose this game, they get swept 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won really at the bank
Right.
past couple postseasons. What's next for Philadelphia in terms of their baseball team? When this season, it feels like this season's going to come to an inevitable end in LA.
Mm-hmm. Right. I
They
don't know. I mean, they got guys under contract for a while.
Yeah, I'm more thinking of the some of the like short term acquisitions.
Right.
I know they have Johan Duran for I believe another year after this. I think is the control that he has. I
Mm-hmm.
think they had this year plus one other, and that's part of the reason why he was such a valuable trade trip. So he'll still be there in terms of their bullpen. Castellanos is on an expiring deal, and things have been rocky there with him. Kyle Schwarber is going to be a free agent as well.
Says
So,
Realmuto.
yeah, so I'm very curious if those guys leave, would they let them walk in hopes of maybe starting, like, I guess, a youth movement around Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, seeing as those are the two that they have inked for the long term? Like, is that a move that they're going to make, or is it a move where we like these guys, we're going to bring them back together for another couple years?
I think if I had to pick, I think they'll keep Realmuto,
Mm-hmm.
and Schwarber and Suarez are going to go.
See, from what I read, it seems like people are saying Dave Dombrowski would be very unlikely to let Schwarber leave Philly.
Well, it's not up to him. So
Yeah, well,
it's
that
up
is
to
true.
if I'm not mistaken, Kyle's agent is you know goodness yeah, who is I'm making sure. I just want to make sure that who Kyle's agent is. It's if you're Swerver, I mean, there's going to be a ton of people want you,
Yeah,
and you're going to be able. And remember, he hasn't made the big. He didn't get a big money deal. He got a good money deal, but he didn't get a big money deal.
Yeah.
I think he's going to command quite a bankroll here. Realmuto, he's on the tail end of his career as catchers go.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's still not good. It just means he's it's that. Suarez, I don't know what they think of him. As far as do you want to keep him? Well, again, it really boils down to how much cash are the Phillies willing to pay for three guys.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I completely forgot about Ranger Suarez. But like in terms of a Kyle Schwarber thing, just purely free agent speaking, it's going to be interesting to see what he does in the offseason, money wise, because I mean he is a guy that doesn't really hit for average. He can't play defense. How much are you willing to pay for 50 home runs? Is what people are essentially is what Kyle Schwarber and his team are essentially going to ask teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think is an interesting question on how much value does the home run have?
Yeah, he's got Jason R., who, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a former player from Middleton, Ohio, who works with the group that is out of the management group that manages it's owned by LeBron James and his gang. So, your point as to where the landing spots would be for Kyle Schwarber, you're basically hiring a designated hitter.
Yeah.
And but there's some teams out there that have money, and I think that will the Phillies have an opportunity to bring him back? I think they will, but I think it's going to cost them. And can Dombrowski sell management on putting that kind of money into a guy who basically, as you said, is a home run hitter? Yep, no question, but he can't play the field.
No.
And Harper and the other guys, he's signed through 2031. And basically Trey Turner is signed to 2023 or 3033. So 2031 for Harper, 2033 for Turner, which is not to say they couldn't trade either one of them. But they both have non-trade clauses, which goes from that. And you can go from a veteran team to an old team pretty fast.
Yeah. And like that feels like, I think that's the reason I am most curious, because it feels like you're starting to get to the Phillies where if they were to just like not even really pay any mind to the free agent pool and just re-sign their guys to the money that they want, then you're very quickly, like, you're not immediately, but you're 2-3 years away from saying like, whoa, our team, like our roster is old.
Well, I mean, Aaron Nola and and Weaver and the entire they have an old pitching staff. I mean, Wheeler and Nola, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
This looks like a rerun to me of the Phillies team that had a great run in the mid 20 teens, right? With the playoffs, with the World Series, won a World Series. They were a phenomenal team, and then all of a sudden they realized, oh my God, we're old.
Yeah.
And then they fell off the map for a long time.
Yeah.
This is so. I think they're in that dangerous. There's a window, and that window is closing quickly. And if it closes tonight, or for that matter, before they get to the World Series, you got to look at that and wonder what the hell, where do we go from here? Because they got a lot of old pieces. Now this being said, they have a really good farm system, so that's helpful to them. But what happens to the Phillies after this? Now the Phillies, they've got the cash. They're not Dodger money, but they're not cheap either, and they put out the cash. But again, you're going to have to sell management on, do I give Schwarber a big deal, what's it gonna cost me to keep Realmuto, here, um, and then Suarez, and what do I add? How can I, what do we look like? And so I guess Dombrowski's going to look at what he's got in the minors and see what can happen. I believe Remuto would give him a a hometown discount
Yeah.
because
And
he got a good deal from them, and I don't think he wants. I mean, a lot of times, especially catchers, they don't want to go anywhere else. I mean, it's really becomes a problem for them.
yeah.
And that's all Realmuto can do is catch. He's not an outfielder. He's not a third baseman, first baseman. He's your catcher.
Yeah.
So I do think it's realistic to think they can keep him.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they want to keep Suarez, but if they do, they probably they might have a shot at that. I'm just there's so many people who have talked about wanting to get. So I'm talking now specifically some American League teams
Mhm.
who want to get Schwarber, that he could command enough money to cause Dombrowski, to have to say, well, you know what, I'm just gonna let it go.
Yeah. And I know that, like, I'm not even sure the season had ended, and
Mm-hmm.
people had already started discussing the free agent class coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically in Boston, I know that people really took a strong liking to him and his, short half season post trade deadline
Mm-hmm.
stint there in Boston. And like it fills a need up there. I know. I don't know, how willing are they going to be spending money in the offseason? I don't know. Just because it felt like last year is the first year that they've really decided to like go all in and spend money again. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they'll want to spend again, but I'm not sure if they would want to tether 120 to 150 million dollars into just a DH after
No,
unloading a 330 million dollar
you're
DH
right.
earlier this season.
The at least Scott Boras isn't his agent, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That bodes well. I look, Kyle Schwarber is a hard guy not to like.
Mm-hmm.
He is a good guy in the clubhouse. He is a fan favorite. He's the kind of guy that if you are a franchise, you want him because there's no drama there.
Yep.
He's that kind of guy. I could see him fitting in Boston really well. I could see him, especially being left-handed. He could really, he could really do some damage at Fenway, um, at that situation. So I certainly could see Kyle ended up in Boston if the money was right.
Yeah, I will say it is a plus that the Yankees have both Giancarlo Stanton and Judge with his health problems filling up
Mm-hmm.
their DH. Because if you stuck Kyle Schwarber in Yankee Stadium, he might hit 70 home runs.
Right. That porch out there gets real short real fast.
Yeah, like it would. I think the numbers he would put up would be ridiculous. It's kind of the general sense you got with Juan Soto, and he put up career numbers his first year in New
Mm-hmm.
York too.
Yeah, and I think from Schwarber's standpoint, um, I don't think that Schwarber's would. I don't think he would go to. I don't think he's going to go to a New York team.
No, the New York in terms of like the media market just
Mm-hmm.
itself doesn't exactly feel like a fit for Kyle.
No, and I think that you know, um, playing in the East, which he did for the Nationals and then for the Phillies,
Mm-hmm.
you get an immediate dislike for the Mets,
Yep.
and so I think if all things considered, I think Kyle Schwarber would be happy to be with a Boston team that's young and he might be just a nice little piece. As I said before, he's good with young guys. He's good with in the clubhouse. He might just be a guy who could be a very good, a very good fit for the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm. It's a reunion in my mind that just makes like so much sense, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
think they won't do it. So, like it the one of your Achilles heels this year in terms of the Red Sox was that
Right.
they could not hit home runs. You've got a
Mhm.
guy who almost exclusively hits home runs. He'd probably fit your roster pretty well. And it seems to make a lot of sense. I know he's probably on the backside, so maybe you have your worries about age. It feels like when it comes down to free agent time in Boston,
Mhm.
John Henry and that Fenway ownership group, they really care about the age of the player. Like that's supposedly the reason that Mookie Betts didn't get a new deal. It's the reason they
Mhm.
didn't re-sign John Lester. It's the reason that when they're in the pitching market, like their scope is so limited, and why they focus in on guys like Garrett Crochet and Joe Ryan. It's because they're looking for young, controllable arms, and that's a model that people think are new. No, like the young and controllable and not spending a lot of money on a pitcher close to 30 is
Mhm.
something that ended in Boston the second David Price didn't show up and produce the same way he had.
Yeah, I think that they're going back to uh, the well, they've got. I mean, they're very high on analytics,
Yes.
and analytics, especially when you're in a pitching situation. I understand. You get north of 30, and you know there are very few pitchers who are going to want to be in that position.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of analytic wise. But I think it's different, especially for a guy like Schwarber, who is really a guy who is he does one thing and he does it well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hiring someone who what he's going to try to do.
Yep.
Um, I don't see any. I haven't seen, and perhaps I'm wrong on this, and certainly if I'm wrong, correct me. But I haven't seen Kyle's bat slow down.
No, you haven't. And that's I think that's what gives me like some hope is like there's clear signs that his pop hasn't gone anywhere.
Hmm.
It doesn't appear like it's going anywhere.
Hmm.
Like the way he's built and the way he swings, it feels like a swing that is built to last. Because I mean, Big Poppy did it until he was almost 40.
Right. I'll tell you who he reminds me of, and not from a standpoint of hitting home runs, but one of the guys who has. Go ahead.
Oh, I wouldn't say anything.
Okay. I was going to say Daniel Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Murph was a guy who took hitting ridiculously serious. I mean, we're talking about a guy who would get to the ballpark and he would take a tee out and he would put it inside. He'd put it outside. He'd put it off the plate, on the plate. This before batting practice started. And he would be hitting off the tee. And, he had wrists. I swear to God, his wrists were like Roger Federer. I mean, he could flip that ball as a left-handed batter, he could flip that ball right over the shortstop's head, like a drop shot in tennis. Um, and that's kind of what you see when you see Schwarber. You go to the ballpark early, and you see Schwarber out there, again, much like Daniel Murphy, going hard into working on his hitting skills. He knows that's what his bread and butter is, and I think that speaks volumes for how much he takes this seriously.
Yeah, I also think it's important because it seems like everything else is pointed to it that Alex Bregman appears to be coming back to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have two guys that care about hitting the way that both Alex and Kyle do,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a clubhouse that's full of young guys,
Yeah.
like obviously I don't think it can be overstated just how important Alex Bregman was to the Red Sox and their
Mm,
success this season.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you get another guy that's very similar makeup to him
Mm-hmm.
in that clubhouse with those younger guys, I
Mm-hmm.
think it does. I think it can only do good. Like it doesn't. It's not a place where Kyle Schwarber is going to come in and somehow have a negative impact on what you built in the clubhouse this offseason, which I think is very important in terms of like next steps for Boston getting better. Is they for a while there it seems like almost this energy around Rafael Devers, and
Mhm.
maybe it's just this year, but maybe it bled into years past or something like that. They got like almost like a fresh reset on their
Mhm.
locker room, and what they built specifically in the second half and specifically after that turbulent flight to Minnesota is something that needs to sustain in order for them to really reach the success that they were at previously.
And when we talk about Schwarber, we're talking about a guy who, for the most part, in his career, was a guy who was an afterthought. I
Yeah,
mean, there wasn't a lot of people out there trying to figure out where, what he was going to do and where he was going to do it. So the fact that he came in and started to create, a bit of a buzz was not because of you know, uh, his personal style. It was because of the ability, um, his ability to win over the players in the locker room.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's something that you want that when you have a young team.
yeah, yeah. He's
And so, I mean, this to me would be, an investment that would be a wise one for the Red Sox if that is where they want to go.
yeah, yeah, really.
So let's talk about where we go from here. Um, I think that I think now we talked about this a few minutes ago, and that was we think that Milwaukee can close out tonight. There's four. I mean, literally, we got 4 games that could be elimination games today.
Yeah,
So I don't. We both are agreeing that the Yankees Blue Jays probably, that's probably the one game that is the most iffy from a standpoint of Toronto moving on. Milwaukee and the Cubs, that can happen. Certainly, the Mariners could take out the Tigers today, and we just talked about the Dodgers and of course the Phillies from that standpoint.
yeah. If I were to guess, like just give you a full clean
Mm-hmm.
guess slate today, I would say 3 series in and one goes to Game 5, and the one
Right,
that goes to Game 5 is the Blue Jays and the Yankees.
that's the one being played in New York. Yeah.
I think the Brewers. I think the NLCS is set by 2 3 game sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feeling that I get, just because the Cubs just like they survived the wild card. It felt like it wasn't.
Yeah,
It didn't feel like they really
they
like.
didn't dominate anybody.
Yeah, it didn't feel like they created any like forward momentum
Mm-hmm.
going into the DS. Like the Yankees, it felt like they created some momentum going
Yeah,
into the DS. So like, and even the Dodgers more or less, they just got to knock the rust off while the Phillies were playing practice games.
right. Mm-hmm.
So you combine that, and then the Tigers had a little bit of momentum. They brought it
Mm-hmm.
in. They won the first game. They've lost the next 2 since. So, and now you've got Casey Mize versus Bryce Miller, which felt like a case of like the Tigers won that series, and then you have Scooble going, and it's like, okay, well that's a winning recipe. But then after that, you felt the Mariners pitching depth.
Let's take a quick look past this season. Okay, we're not going to predict who's going to win what yet, but of the teams out there that didn't make the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
who do you see as being the most um, improved and potentially somebody who is coming back next year, and next year will be perhaps the breakout year?
I I mean, not really a breakout, more of a return to form. I think it would be for me, and that's Atlanta. Like,
I was going to ask you about them.
yeah, it feels like they are a team that, and I struggle to like solely put it on this, but they really fell hard on the injury luck side of things. Like they fell on
Mhm.
the bad side of the injury luck this year.
Mhm.
I've said it, I feel like, a million times, but your entire starting day rotation at one point was on the 60-day IL together.
Right.
All five of your opening day starters that you went into the season with were unavailable to pitch on the 60-day IL, which is insane in terms of the injury stuff. Ronald Acuna had to miss some time. And there was a lot of guys that just didn't feel like they were quite right. But then in the back half of the season, you look at it, and Michael Harris remembered how to swing a baseball bat, which is big for them in their outfield.
Mhm.
Drake Baldwin's probably the National League Rookie of the Year, if I were to guess. And I did find it funny. Alex Anthopoulos was talking on a podcast a few days ago, and he was talking about how they were talking about a trade for an untouchable player, but Drake Baldwin was the key piece that he just wasn't willing to part with.
Mhm.
And so I thought that was interesting that he wasn't. I mean, it was the correct move,
Mhm.
depending on who the player was. Correct move. But you look at all those, and then you get Austin Riley's kind of rides the waves of these up and down years. The same can be said for Matt Olson. And then you get Acuna back fully healthy, giving him an offseason of rest, or at least you would hope he rests and doesn't go play
Mhm.
baseball, summer, fall league baseball, and
Right.
or something like that. But they feel like a clear answer because you go out and you address the bullpen, which was a problem for them, and then you're basically just banking on that starting rotation coming back to what it was, or at least some form of it. And that lineup will return to form with health, you hope, as well.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we were all surprised by, you know, you just pencil the Braves in, right?
Yeah.
Um, you don't even think about it. You automatically go, well, they may not win. Okay, fine. They don't win the division. They'll be there. But to have everything, and again, you know, everybody gets injuries, but that was what happened to them was pretty dire. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think that's it. I'm I struggle to just see that the Mets are going to get any better.
Yeah, I would struggle too, but it also feels like you're pitching away. Like if your starting rotation consisted of three rookies
Mm-hmm.
going into the final stretch of the season. Those were guys that you had to call up because
Mm-hmm.
your offseason acquisitions and turning Clay Holmes into a starter were
Mm-hmm.
failures of projects. I don't know what they were thinking in terms of the starting pitching market. They had decided not to attack it very aggressively in the offseason. They didn't attack it at the deadline, and it bit them.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple, it bit them. So this is I would say it's a relatively deep pitching class in terms of the free agents this year. Dylan Cease, Michael King are going to be two that really headline it. But the Mets have the ability, and Steve Cohen has shown the willingness to just throw money at the problems and hope they get fixed. And I would be nothing short of shocked if they did not take a similar approach to their pitching staff this offseason.
Well, there's that, but one of the things that gives me pause about the Mets and the not necessarily the what I would say the toxicity. No, I wish I could say that toxicity of the locker room is that Pete Alonso opted out of his contract.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just because it's what I know, and that's another bat that people have linked to Boston as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Pete Alonso wants to stay a Met though. Like that, I'm not saying he will, and I'm not saying they're going to shell out the cash
Right.
for him. But the general sense you got, at least last offseason, and it's I would say going into this one as well, is that Pete Alonso wants to be in New York, like he wants to be a Met.
Well, if he wanted
It's
to be a Met, they could have signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, but they haven't.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It seems like for as much as Pete Alonso wants to be a Met, I'm not sure the Mets want him to be a Met as much.
I don't think they do. I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't enjoy having him here, but if you talk to, I've spoken to baseball writers in New York. I listen to, WFAN and some of the radio stations up there. And the bottom line is that I don't think Steve Cohen feels that Alonso is that important. Um, and I think that Alonso feels that, and whether it's whether it's true or not, I think Alonso feels he's being disrespected by Steve Cohen.
Yeah, which I would say is probably a fair assessment if Steve Cohen doesn't believe that he's that important. But then at the same time, to Steve Cohen's argument, you would also have, well, you played, like, if I remember correctly, Pete Alonso played very well this year. Like,
Sure.
it was by no means a bad year for Pete Alonso. It was a pretty good year
Mm-mm.
for him.
No.
And they didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
So, if you've got a roster and you consider these guys important and they don't make the playoffs, then how important are they? Like, is it worth going and finding somebody to play first base? Like, whether you call somebody up from the farm system, you have somebody
Right.
on the major league roster already that you like are hoping that will fill his hole. Is it worth saving the money that you would spend on Pete Alonso and going and getting pitching?
I think that's probably more of the way that they might think of it.
Yeah, and
Um, they got their $700 million guy in right field.
yeah,
Um,
like
so you know,
their lineup has their two staples. Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto are like the guys. For as
right,
much as Pete Alonso kind of felt like while Juan Soto wasn't there, Pete Alonso was the
right.
obvious two. With Soto there, he falls to an obvious third option.
Mm-hmm.
And not that there's anything wrong with that or that like that is a reason that he'll leave. But who the guys on the team are. Like
Right,
that is Francisco Lindor's team and Juan Soto is the highest paid player. Those are the
right.
two roles. They're filled. A lot of times they're filled by the same guy. These are filled by two separate guys. But they're filled and there's not really like any extra space, I guess.
Yeah, I had a real short conversation at right after the season. I saw him, Pete Kurt, Tim Kirchin, and I asked him about the Mets. And he goes, asked him, what happened. He goes, there are 25 independent contractors,
Yeah.
and that said a lot to me.
Yeah.
That this is not a team, and they don't go out together. They don't enjoy, hanging out in the clubhouse together. Which, by the way, if you see the Phillies, if you see the Dodgers, I mean, they go, there's a lot of team related. Maybe they're over at Swerver's house, maybe they're over, in Los Angeles, maybe they're at Freddie Freeman's place. I mean, they hang out together. The
Yeah.
Mets didn't. I mean, the Mets basically, when the game was over, everybody got in their cars and left.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I mean, from your days of watching the Braves, right? The
Mhm.
Braves were always tight. You know,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that really made the Braves a solid team, was that they had each other's back. They enjoyed being with each other. They enjoyed playing with each other. Um, and I'm not so certain that is just because you pay people money doesn't mean that they like each other.
Yeah.
And which is not to say that that there's that the clubhouse is full of a group of bad people. It just means that the chemistry is not there. You can win with chemistry over sometimes talent.
Yeah. I mean
Yeah.
the whole it felt like the whole mantra for the Red Sox 2013 World Series was just like the power of friendship.
Yeah.
They were like one of the worst teams in baseball in 2012. They weren't good at
Right.
all. They were last place in the East.
Hmm.
And then, some magic happened between 2012 and 2013,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden they're a World Series baseball team.
Right.
So it I think what you have in the clubhouse or locker room or
Hmm.
wherever it may be in terms of a team sport is
Hmm.
more important than what you have out on the field. They talk about the sum being greater than the parts. Like that
Hmm.
has to happen. The sum being greater than the parts has to happen in order for
Hmm.
you to win a championship or really win at any level.
Hmm. That's 100%. And the thing is that we see is that when you invest in the clubhouse guys, right? We just talked about Schwarber. We just, and there are others that are really good clubhouse guys. You, Kiki Hernandez in Los Angeles, clubhouse guy. Guerrero in Toronto, clubhouse guy.
Yep.
These guys, they know when people are down, and they'll do something, to lift everybody's spirits. They may just jump in and, bring in music, or they may start a Madden tournament, where everybody sits down and starts playing, video games. They'll do whatever it takes to get the team loose. And I think that was pretty evident if you watch the Mets. It wasn't that way all season long.
Yeah. I do wonder, and I really highly doubt that it plays into that, but I wonder how much having like with all the drama that went on with Juan Soto, and specifically like how big his name became in the offseason.
Right.
I wonder if that like created any kind of animosity. Wouldn't be wrong, but you're like, man, this guy's getting paid $765 million to be here. I'm making $1 million. Or like Pete Alonso himself, they went out and they paid Juan Soto all that money. And I mean, even last season, they didn't show like a real willingness to bring Alonso back on that 1-year deal.
No,
they did. And I think it would have to play in your mind some. Like, man, they wanted this guy so bad. They paid him $700. They set a different bar higher than Shohei Ohtani, who both hits and pitches, in order to get this guy in a Mets uniform. And I get a 1-year deal. And I've been here how long?
Like I said before, I saw Juan Soto come up in the Nationals organization, and I like Juan Soto, but you hit on something. Ohtani's deal was, if you look at it, right, it was crafted so that the Dodgers, he's not even the highest paid Dodger at the moment.
No,
right?
He's making like $3 million.
Yeah, right. So Ohtani put this together like it was a masterclass in how to create a branding, and a deal so that he and the team, the Dodgers, could be competitive for as long as he's there.
Yeah, like it felt the way it was structured. And I mean, hands down props to him. The fact that he was willing to do it, all of that combined, it felt illegal the way they did it. Like, that's how good it was. It feels like something that's illegal. You're like, man, you're paying this man $3 million so you can surround him with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, whichever bullpen arms you want to go sign, because you can sign all.
Well, and he brings Yamamoto over from Japan.
Yeah, you got Yamamoto on a 325 deal. I think he was 10 for 325. Yeah. And then this offseason, you're able to go sign Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. Build the bullpen of your dreams and just re-sign the supplemental pieces around him that you need.
No, they got Blake Snell.
Yeah, Blake Snell. Like, you don't have to. I think in baseball, people see like these big names and they're like, well, this is going to fix the problem. Juan Soto didn't fix the Mets' problems.
No.
The Mets did better last year without Juan Soto. They did better when Grimace was their mascot for however many games he was. And, the power of friendship for that Mets clubhouse took them further than a $765 million man. Like, you can't. And for as much as money does solve problems in baseball, you also can't buy a good clubhouse.
No. And the point on the Soto deal versus the Yamamoto deal, the Ohtani deal, it was Ohtani's idea. I mean, he took that to Andrew Friedman. So it wasn't like, Andrew Friedman came up with this concept. It was Shohei Ohtani and his agent that went to Friedman with this, to Andrew Friedman with this idea. And, I know Andrew Friedman is not stupid. You present him with this deal, he's going to say, let me get the contract. He'll make sure that the lawyers don't screw this thing up. But there was not that kind of I mean, you pay somebody $700 million, and yeah, granted, Steve Cohen is the richest owner in baseball. Okay, that's great for him, but you just said it. I agree with you. You can't $700 million isn't going to buy you chemistry,
No.
and it's also if you look on that team, what do you think Francisco Lindor feels like?
He feels like he was a free agent at the wrong time.
Yeah, you think? Because there's guys making a lot of money on that team that, here's the guy that they just parachuted him in. And Juan is not the warmest guy on the team. And again, that's not throwing shade on Ron. It's just, personalities are personalities. He's not the face of a franchise. And I don't understand. I mean, I believe strongly that the Yankees weren't even close to $700 million on that deal.
Yeah.
They're not. Brian Cashman, there is no way that that Steinbrenner would ever have signed off on a $700 million deal. That was not even close. So Steve Cohen was probably bidding against himself.
Yeah.
Which it wouldn't be the first time that Scott Boras pulled that one off. But I just, I'm not I just don't want to throw a lot of shade on Soto because I like him. He's a good kid. And you get what you get, right? In other words, the market is what the market is. $700 million, if that's what they're willing to pay him, God love him. But you're not getting the guy who is the face of the franchise. You're not getting the guy who's your clubhouse guy. You're getting a guy who can hit some home runs, is going to hit for average. I'll give him this credit. He picked up speed, which he didn't have before, but he's an average outfielder.
Yeah. That's what, like,
so I'm not so certain what you got for $700 million.
Yeah. When you go back to that whole free agent, it's really weird. Like, you're paying $765 million, and you're basically just assuming, like, the assumption that Steve Cohen made when he paid Juan Soto $765 million last offseason. Thank God I got that out.
Yeah.
Was that he was essentially signing Ted Williams of the 2020s.
Right.
He was hoping for a 420 on base percentage, play some not negative defensive baseball metric wise. And that's it. Like, you don't expect, he stole 30 bases this year, which I think is shocking and really helps add to the value when you look back on it in hindsight. Like, he didn't steal 30. I'm not even sure he stole 20 last season in New York.
No.
But that helps value wise, but his value was purely in a hitter. Like, that's what Steve Cohen paid $765 million for. Man, I'm just going to keep messing that up, aren't I?
Just say 700, north of 700.
We're going to pay north of $700 million for it. It's a mind-boggling number, to be honest with you. It's a number that
it is mind-boggling.
Thinking that he was going to, like, overhaul his lineup and the way that it was constructed and how it would perform, and that didn't happen. Like,
it's also guaranteed money. It's not, it's there's no opt out. There's no opt out there.
Yeah.
So, good luck trading that.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's a semi-similar timeline of events in the NFL where a team kind of felt like they needed to push, like, to go more all in. Because like that kind of felt like the Mets deal with the way the Phillies and the Dodgers were last year. Is the Mets felt like they had to go all in because even though they made it as far as they made it in the playoffs, they still lost to the Dodgers. But they felt like they were close. So if you go pay $765 million, of course that will get you over the hump, or at least I think that was their idea.
Well, that was the theory of the case.
Yeah, and I think it's a similar theory of I think it was 2018 that this trade happened. But you go back to the NFL, when Lamar Jackson signed his deal with the Ravens, I believe that came, and then Cleveland traded for Deshaun Watson and gave him a guaranteed.
That is correct.
It felt like a correction, an attempt to, like, well, Baker was hurt last year. Like, we need to make a push because we feel like the roster, like what Baker did with this roster, we think Deshaun can do that much more with it with the talent he has. I think was the thinking. And they handed out the largest guaranteed contract, and it blew up in their face.
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder if the Mets won't have a little buyer's remorse in the dollar amount that they have anchored themselves to with Juan Soto.
Well, that's gonna, that's up to Steve Cohen,
Yeah.
because we'll see in the offseason how aggressive the Mets are. And the other assumption is that everybody wants to play in New York, which is not the case.
No.
So how, I don't know how they're going to attract free agents to that club. I just, it's going to baffle me.
Yeah.
Uh, because that there's a guy in the building that is making, you know, a totally ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. And it is interesting when you're talking about the selling points of New York. Like
Mhm.
I feel like the Mets are going to be the little brother for as long as like
Forever.
as much as I would love for it to be the other way, it will
Mhm.
never be the other way. The
No.
Mets will always be the younger brother to the Yankees,
Yeah.
and then you're starting to sell like, okay, well you're still in this harsh media market and like a high tax bracket and all this other stuff. Oh, by the way, this one guy makes quintuple what you're going to make this year.
Hmm.
So like it's a hard selling point, I think, to want people to come play in New York unless you're just going to give them that much more money to come play for the Mets. Because if you really want to play in New York, you're going to go play for the Yankees.
Yeah. And I think that right now Judge is looking like a steal,
Yeah,
which is funny, but
which I think it's pretty obvious that if Judge's price was anywhere remotely close to that, Hal Steinbrenner probably would not have forked that cash up
oh
to
God, no.
out of San Francisco.
You're talking about if he'd run up to the 700.
I it's feasible that if he ran up into the 500s,
Oh no, no, no,
Hal Steinbrenner
no.
wouldn't have
The
matched.
Yankees weren't going. I mean, they weren't going to be ridiculous.
I mean, from all reports and accounts, it appears that Judge took a little bit of a hometown discount to stay with the Yankees instead of going to the Giants.
Yeah, I would imagine I wouldn't be surprised.
Didn't Judge's number was like 350, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was not that much more than Harper.
Yeah, so it's about three. I for some reason I feel like I remember hearing like the number that would have been in San Francisco was like 370. So I
Yeah,
think he took like a $20 million pay cut, roughly.
Bryce. Yeah, Bryce left money on the table from San Francisco too.
Yeah, which that they're not the first, nor will they ever be the last people
Right.
to leave San Francisco's money sitting on the table.
No.
The same way many people have left the Blue Jays money sitting on the table.
Right.
You gotta find somebody that wants to take it,
Well,
or you
the
gotta compete for
Oriole
somebody.
Park. Oracle Park. It is not a hitter friendly park.
No, it's not. Like I've brought him up many times, but Rafael Devers in that
Hmm.
trade, when he moved over there,
Hmm.
he played terribly for like a month and a half. And like it's not a really good place to hit home runs. And I
No.
still couldn't like there's not one that rings in my head of Devers like smashing one into the bay or over that
No.
right field wall.
Yeah,
For
it's a great park to watch a game in, but
hmm
it's a funky park when you get down to the actual, dimensions of the park.
yeah,
I
like
mean, it's got that little crease in the outfield, in center field, where you can
yeah.
hit it, and if it hits in there, that ball will come off there like a super ball, and you can get. I think if I'm not mistaken, that they've had more in the park home runs in San Francisco than any other park in baseball since that park was built.
I mean that alley is so deep. It's
Oh my
hard.
God, yeah, and the walls are high.
Yeah, yeah. Like I th- I think you may have had a rival when like Houston when
Yeah.
they had that hill in center field.
Oh
Like if
God,
you
that
went out
was I
the
don't know
hill,
who came up with that idea.
yeah, that was a crazy design in the first place. But if you hit one out there to that hill and like somebody
Mhm.
had to climb it and they didn't get it and it rolls back off that hill, I would
Yeah.
assume that produced a good amount of home runs. I was pretty young
Yeah.
and that hill was still so I'm not exactly like I don't have the best
Well,
time, knowledge
yeah,
to
the thing that I mean, they learn to play it like you learn to play Fenway, right?
yeah.
Off the wall. They learned to play it because that was the deepest part of the park.
Hmm.
What I think in Houston that most people, you know, most hitters love is the fact that the Crawford boxes are there.
Oh, they
So
love Crawford boxes.
so you can hit the ball. Hell, you can have a fly ball that'll end up be a home run. If you get it to that Crawford box.
Yep.
So it does, it does. That little hill was more of a quirk than anything. It was like playing miniature golf. It's like
Yeah.
hit the ball in center field and watch it roll off the hill.
Yeah.
And the Players Association, the moment that thing was put in there, the Players Association was screaming, this is going to get somebody hurt.
They were right. Like,
Yeah,
that's you're running full speed in an attempt to catch a baseball, and now I have to climb a hill without really like when you're tracking down a baseball, your eyes aren't like you catch some glances down, but you're
right.
essentially locked onto that ball in the air. If I'm running straight back trying to track one down, I'm not looking for where that hill is. You feel it.
Also, think if you're coming from another side. You're coming from left field and right field.
Yeah. Like that's the reason the warning track's there, so you can feel the change in surface.
Right.
To know that the wall's about to so you're about to run full speed into this wall.
Right.
And that just wasn't something that they had built in there.
No, that was a Looney Tunes deal. I don't know what the heck they were thinking about there. All right. Well, look, we have come to the end of the party here. So let's just recap. 3 could end today, and we think that 3 will end today, but we don't think that it will end in the Bronx tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So
3 for 4 on series ending today.
Yeah, 3 for 4, and then the World Series would start. I mean, the American or National League Division Series could start on Sunday. So we'll see how that works out. It'll be fun. Games begin, guys, at 3:00 this afternoon and go all the way through till 9:00. So if you're an American League fan, you're going to be watching the games on TBS, and if you're a National League fan, you're going to be watching games on FS1. So get over there, enjoy, have a great day. Matthew and I will see you tomorrow, everybody, and we'll talk Thursday night football. Until then, Giants and Eagles. That ought to be an interesting game. Until then, folks, take care. Thanks for joining us.